This week, we're hearing from the new leader of Border Patrol's Tucson Sector. Chief Patrol Agent Roy Villarreal came on the job about a month ago to oversee the sector's 3,900 agents. In his 30 years with the agency, he helped launch the Border Safety Initiative, which includes BORSTAR, Border Patrol Search, Trauma, and Rescue Team. Our crew met Villarreal in the West Desert, where BORSTAR is preparing for rising temperatures. Good morning.
Our meeting spot was at the 3-point substation.
Thanks for doing this.
From there, Villarreal drove us south along Highway 286.
For the longest time, Tucson Sector was the epicenter of all things border security. From the perspective that the volume of illegal migration, the flow of illicit narcotics, and the heightened threat that existed at the border anywhere along the southwest border is right here in Arizona.
Before coming to Tucson, he served in Yuma, El Centro, San Diego, and Washington, D.C. Now, as Chief Patrol Agent of the Tucson Sector, he's also the commander of Joint Task Force West, overseeing Arizona's entire border with Mexico to include the Yuma sector. The day before our ride, agents apprehended more than 1,000 people in both sectors in 24 hours. Large groups are the new normal that strain existing resources.
When you have 100 people or 100 plus, I've got to allocate anywhere from 4 to 6 vans, upwards of 10 to 12 agents, to go and secure that group of aliens, transport them back to a place where we can temporarily house them and then get them to a station for processing. That is a logistical problem, but it's also a border security problem in that now I have 10 to 12 agents that are removed from the field. And so what's being lost in this situation is the aspect that a lot of people are looking at this as, well, it's just family units. It's just mom and dad and women and children. But that draw away from border security means that it leaves the rest of the border wide open. So although here in Tucson about 25, maybe 30% of the people that we're witnessing are these family units, there's still upwards of 75 to 80% of the people that we're catching that are still actively trying to elude arrest.
That includes 16 convicted sex offenders apprehended along Arizona's border last month. Each is a foreign national who committed a sex crime while in the U.S. For individuals and groups that don't immediately surrender to agents, technology plays a big role in the agency's defense and depth strategy of intercepting people and contraband miles north of the border.
Here in Tucson, we have 261 miles. It'd be impossible to place an agent every mile 24/7. So we have to utilize technology. And technology, it's a force multiplier for us. The vehicle behind us enables a single agent to cover 10 miles of border, 10 miles of an area. The system itself, it scans every 10 seconds and it covers 10 miles, and it tracks and identifies any anomalies, people that are walking, vehicles that are driven across the border, and then it will enable the operator to relay to the agent in the field, there's something that needs to be investigated, and then that agent responds. So for us, these are force multipliers.
Like other sectors along the Southwest, agents are seeing record numbers of migrants from Central America that include small children.
Is it a crisis?
Absolutely. It's both a humanitarian and a border security crisis. Humanitarian from the perspective that we're talking about family units. We're talking about mom, dad, and little kids. And when I say little kids, everything from a newborn upwards of 17 years old. And it's not only the family unit that we're witnessing along the southwest border, it's unaccompanied children. Children between the ages of 5 and 17 that show up at our border by themselves. This year alone, we've already arrested over 60,000 unaccompanied children. So put it in perspective, as a parent, could you imagine allowing your 5-year-old to travel from Central America by him or herself all the way up to the United States? I can't comprehend that. It boggles my mind. That demographic, that vulnerable demographic of family units and unaccompanied children is what is causing our system to grind to a halt. Our facilities, the detention, the laws were all designed principally for single adults. There used to be a relief mechanism because the alien that we were arresting back in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s was principally from Mexico. And that person was processed and returned back to Mexico via a voluntary return within a day. Today's demographic is not the same. 1 million people means that they are in our system, they've flooded the system, they've overwhelmed that system. There is no relief valve. And so until there is some sort of legislative change, we're going to be in this quagmire in that we can't adjust quickly enough to address the flow. We can't adjust quickly enough to make sure that it's addressed appropriately. So we really need legislative change, and we need a whole-of-government approach towards this.
Villarreal also oversees the Nogales station. The city of Nogales made headlines for its multiple strands of concertina wiring along the border. City leaders have condemned the wire's placement, which Villarreal has no plans to remove.
There has been the placement of concertina wire along the entire southwest border in particular locations. We looked at what the vulnerabilities were, what the threats were, where we thought that may be exploited, and that's where we placed the wire. I was in San Diego at the time when the caravan first arrived. Without that, I think we would have been overrun in November when there was about 1,000 people that attempted to cross the border illegally. In this case, it was placed in areas that we felt required it, a threat existed, and then we also mitigated to make sure that there was no threat on the north side of the border.
Where some people see that it's excessive, it's really strategic and tactical from your perspective. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. So what we learned in San Diego, if you place a single strand of wire on top of the fence, it's going to be cut, it's going to be removed, in some way it will be defeated by the smugglers on the south side of the border. And so what we've learned is if you use multiple strands of wire, it's more effective, it's not compromised, and it's got durability. There isn't a singular solution to...
After speaking with Villarreal, we connected with BORSTAR, a specialized unit developed under the agency's border safety initiative that couples border enforcement with humanitarian aid. With BORSTAR's Deputy Commander Kelly Kirby, we hopped in a Razor, a type of ATV used to navigate the desert terrain. Our destination was east of the Babaquivari Mountains. BORSTAR relies on data from previous years to decide where to position agents for a quicker response during the summer months.
So for the summer operations, because we generally have, obviously because of the heat, we have higher numbers of rescues and deaths. We do a data analysis of where the enforcement pattern is, where we see the most traffic flow, and we also compare it to past years. And this year we did a 3-year stance of where the rescues and deaths have occurred for the past 3 years. We map pattern that so that we can see a concentration of where we need our agents. Since we're in a finite resource, we want them working enforcement in the best posture to prevent people from getting into the worst areas. And that being said, by being there in those areas, they have the fastest response times for any rescues or med calls that they can get to.
On the Tohono O'odham Reservation, Babaquivari Peak ranges in elevation from 4,500 feet to nearly 8,000. Its remoteness and proximity to the border make it a common route for traffickers, but also a potentially treacherous one.
The groups that come up from the west side of the Babaquivari mountain range, they come up and they come through passes. So they'll come up to avoid detection and get away from the technology as best they can, and then they'll cross over and drop down. So we see them on both sides of these mountains.
I think most people who hike or enjoy the outdoors would have trouble crossing that. What is the condition of the person that you normally encounter?
You know, it varies. If they're just illegal immigrants coming through, we've got everything from young adult males to family groups to women, children. We also see a lot of drug traffic in this area, and those guys that are packing in drugs are very well conditioned and athletic. They can handle this no problem. But you do start getting concerns when the smuggling groups or the guides take them into areas that puts them at higher risk. And these would be definitely some of those areas, because just the altitude, how dry it is, and where they're coming from.
Last year, BORSTAR made 275 rescues and responded to 350 medical calls. We saw them in action firsthand when Kirby's team got a call about a Guatemalan man who waved down a car on the side of the highway.
And he was hiding from agents, so they actually came and found him. They went under the road here on the highway and found him laying face down under the culvert. Upon interview, he said he's been 6 days out here without food or water. Based on his vitals and how much fluid he's taking, I mean, if he would not have been located or not given up, probably 2 days max that he would have survived.
30 miles north of the border?
Yes.
How is it that he managed to go this far without getting to this point?
I mean, our resources get strapped. So just as an example, if he was a group, I'm not sure, I haven't asked him yet, if he was a group of 8 to 10 people and some of our technology spotted that group and agents responded and made apprehensions, and they only were able to apprehend 6. Well, those agents are now tied up with those 6. If there were 2 remaining, and it could be the case that he was part of 2 remaining that had walked away and continued. So you're not always going to get them all, and the tactics they're using now where they break into small groups is harder for us to work with because you're working with a smaller number of people.
To support BORSTAR, there are more than 200 agents in the sector who are certified as emergency medical technicians or paramedics. Kirby was part of the second group of agents to complete BORSTAR training in the sector. He described how challenges have evolved over time and how the team continues to adapt to new situations.
I came in the Border Patrol in '98, and traffic flow obviously was pretty high back then. So we've definitely seen an influx of control. So the border is more controlled now than I think it ever has been, even with the recent uptick with the caravan concerns. But I've seen the traffic numbers go down. I've seen the technology usage and the number of agents and infrastructure that we had for the Border Patrol increase.
Are your BORSTAR agents, or perhaps the agency in general, prepared for the influx of Central American migrants, to include children who'll be crossing through some unique terrain given the weather is about to change?
Yes, I believe so. You know, I've voiced my concerns earlier, and as a team, you know, we know that the majority of these people are coming from a tropic or subtropic environment into this arid environment, which increases the risk. They've also traveled a long way to get here. I think the sector is prepared. It's got measures in place, as well as we've handled the influx back when we had the crisis with the Guatemalan children coming up or from Central America when we handled it back 4 or 5 years ago. So they have measures in place, we have prior practices, and I think they're prepared to respond to it.